For today's video, we're going to be dealing with endgame content. I'm still going to keep it casual and break it down so it's super easy to understand, like my previous Destiny videos. So I'll be giving you some tips on how to get ready for dungeons and raids. Don't be confused, this isn't a guide on like one particular level, but just some like general tips on how to approach dungeons and raids if you've never done them before. Step 1, research. In one of my tips for beginner videos, card up top if you want to see that, I said having a goal when it comes to Destiny kind of guides you on where to go and what you want to do. Doing dungeons and raids are no different, so what's your goal for doing them? My personal goal is to get cool looking gear for my Titan, so I've been grinding the Prophecy dungeon because I like how that gear looks. Has a little rabbit on the side, it's pretty cool. So if your goal is to get a certain weapon, just Google and see which dungeon or raid has it. If your goal is to attempt doing a dungeon solo, look and see which of the dungeons are easiest to solo. Or even if your goal is simply to just try out endgame content, there's tons of articles on Google and Reddit ranking the dungeons and raids in terms of difficulty, so you know which one is the easiest to start out with. Do your research and find the endgame mission that you want to start out with. So once you have your mission selected, step 2 is going to be to have your gear ready. This is endgame content. You need to be able to take and dish out a lot of damage. You'll die fast, and enemies can be bullet sponges if you're not well equipped. I'm not gonna give like a specific like level you're supposed to be at because the levels go up like every season. So I'll just say whatever level the legend difficulty missions recommend you to be, you should be at that or higher. So your gear should be masterwork, so you have the highest possible stats. I should probably do a video on upgrading gear, but basically when you masterwork your gear, you get an extra 10 stats to your gear. So this, if you look at another Guardian's gear, you'll see how they get like over 100 in one slot, or even on that specific piece of gear, you'll see it go up to like 80 or 90. This is how you achieve those numbers. By masterworking your gear, it adds extra numbers to your stats. This is my loadout. My playstyle is pretty much just run headfirst into enemies, melee, and set everything on fire. This is a very reckless playstyle, so I spec into high resilience so I can take a lot of damage. I have the Lorelei Splendor helmet, which will automatically use my shield ability to heal me whenever my health dips into the red. The rest of my gear and mods work together to give me extra damage, healing, and drop elemental wells. So my melee and shield ability are always full because the exotic helmet eats my shield to give me back health basically. So yeah, I just always want 2 of these abilities full. When it comes to weapons, I have 1 weapon for ad clearing, which means just quickly killing those little small minion type enemies, which is the Callus mini tool, and 2 weapons for DPS and dealing with bosses. I suggest having weapons that can deal with different enemy shields. The Callus SMG is solar, and I have this bow for dealing with arc shields. This is also good for ad clearing. Feel free to use the Trinity Ghoul bow. It's great, but because the Wither Horde is already in my first slot, you can only have 1 exotic equipped. I have this bow, which kind of works like Trinity Ghoul anyway, because it has a Dragonfly perk. And my power weapon here, I can use against void shields. Having multiple weapons that you can swap to deal with enemy shields will save you a lot of time. My first few runs of Prophecy, I just stuck with the same weapons throughout the entire dungeon, and it wasted a lot of time because I was just spraying bullets trying to pop enemy shields with a weapon that doesn't match that shield type. Switching weapons will save you a lot of time, so just, you know, take multiple weapons that have different elemental types. And also ranges. This SMG doesn't get very far, so sometimes I'd swap to a pulse rifle or a bullet to deal with if you went in encounters that we had to deal with snipers or anything like that. But you know, you can use whatever you prefer. Again, this is just my loadout. This kind of goes back into the research point from earlier, but look up weapons that are good for dealing damage to bosses in dungeons and raids. You'll see a lot of tier lists, and they change every season. So if you don't have any that you see on those lists, go and start grinding to get them. I actually suggest you start there first before looking at your gear or which raid do you have any good weapons for dealing with bosses. If not, that's where to start. I normally hate grenade launchers and fusion rifles. I prefer hand cannons and shotguns, but for endgame content, the Wither Horde grenade launcher and the Taipan fusion rifle are my go-to weapons for endgame content this season. Now, a good way to test your loadout is to run legend difficulty missions solo. Lost sectors are short. You can do them in less than 10 minutes, sometimes less than 5 minutes, depending on the mission and how good your loadout is. Doing missions on legend difficulty will it'll let you know where the weak spots in your loadouts is, if you have one. You know, are you dying too fast? Are your weapons not doing enough damage? Is your subclass setup not good because of the aspects and fragments you chose? Are the mods, you know, the ones you have selected, are they not working well together? All these questions you might have will get answered when you do a legend difficulty mission. The loadout I did trial and error with for a while and just keep tweaking it until I found a setup that worked. But you can skip that and just look up some OP builds that other people have shared online for your specific class for that season. If you're going to take this route, make sure you research what's powerful for that particular season, because things get nerfed and buffed all the time. That's why I'm trying not to be like super specific in this video about like, you know, like level and which gear to use, because, you know, that changes, the meta changes from season to season. If your gear and weapons are good and you can do legend missions, you know, without a sweat, then congrats, you're dungeon and raid ready. So now you're going to do endgame content. Friends are important. If you have friends that can guide you through a dungeon or raid because they know the puzzles and what to do already, they can teach you and it's super easy. But if you don't, that's fine. You can do a looking for game in the Destiny app and see if you can find a group. Or, you know, again, you can just get a bunch of friends even if they haven't done that particular raid yet. So before you go into the dungeon, pull up a dungeon guide on your phone or second monitor or whatever. The first time I did the Prophecy dungeon with a friend, he hadn't done it either, so before every encounter I just looked at the dungeon guide article on my phone and read what the next stage of the dungeon would be and what we'd have to do to get through it. And I did this throughout the entire run. The first time it took us like 2 hours to complete because, you know, we had to figure out the puzzles and how it worked. But the second run it took us like 45 minutes because we knew what we were doing. And the last tip is, before you start a dungeon or raid, decide your roles. Who's gonna do puzzles with which person, who's on ad clear, you know, that type of thing. My Titan build is tanky and good for ad clearing, so throughout the dungeons and raids, my job was to clear enemies and do high DPS to bosses when they were able to take damage. Now, ad clearing DPS is my favorite role because I like to kill things, but I can swap roles with someone if they need someone to stay alive, because that person is going to be surrounded by enemies. In the King's Fall raid, my job was ad clear and have these items ready for my teammates to collect, and they just take them and run back and forth between 2 points doing the puzzle or whatever. But one of them kept dying because they were surrounded by a lot of enemies, so I swapped role with them because, again, I'm tanky and we got it done. A big plus is also that my fire kind of heals teammates. So, you know, if they step on my fire tornadoes, it would heal them. So, you know, I was kind of like a little mini medic if someone was gonna die. You know, you just run through my fire and you live. So whatever your favorite role is, build your loadout towards that. Whether it's playing support, ad clear, DPS, whatever. In one of the other raids that we did, a hunter had a void build and he was just dropping grenades on the entire team, and we were just going invisible and we like breezed through this one particular section of, I think it's the Vault of Glass raid. So that's what I mean. Yeah, if you're playing support, just make your loadout really good at that one thing. Actually, I lied. This is the last tip. I remember, I just remembered this. I said it before in a previous video, but I'll say it again. Download the Destiny Item Manager app on your phone. Connect your accounts. This lets you swap weapons on the fly from your other characters and your vault. If you're struggling at a certain point, you can just grab different weapons from your phone. It is insanely useful. Because I, you know, spec into high resilience, my mobility sucks. So when it comes to jump puzzles, a lot of the time I kind of die and just hold my team back. So I was able to grab these, I think it's called Lion Ramparts exotic boots that help Titans boost mobility. If you're a Titan and you suck at jump puzzles, highly suggest you get these. So yeah, I was able to grab these from my vault mid-raid. We didn't have to quit out or anything like that because I have this app. Can't recommend it enough. Go download it. So yeah, those are some tips to get you started on the endgame content. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any tips to help you, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.